waiting for me to say something fucking stupid like I usually do.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the podcast today. And today on the podcast, we're going to talk about different podcasts.
See, even when I don't try to say something dumb to start it off, I still somehow do.
It's tradition at this point. I mean, that's what they come to expect.
Not even tradition. I feel like that's just me. Like, I might be stupid. I don't know.
Might is quite the strong word.
Yes.
You just got roasted, dude. Rotisserie style. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. You're probably thinking,
welcome back again.
What happened to last week's podcast? And my answer to that is none of your business. Fucking deal with it.
Wait, what did happen? There wasn't a podcast last week? What do you mean?
No, there wasn't a podcast last week.
Wasn't last week the Nintendo Supreme 5 reveal? PS5?
No, that was like 2
the
weeks
Nintendo
ago.
PlayStation?
Technically. Once we upload this
one.
Oh,
shit.
We skipped a week.
Well, welcome back, guy, to the podcast.
All right, so just for context on why we skipped a week, it's our terrible keeping track of things. We've been busy with so much stuff that I completely even forgot. I would bring it up hey, should we do the podcast tomorrow? And you'd be like, yeah, sure. And then tomorrow would happen and I would completely forget that we had to do the podcast because I was doing something else. And oh well.
You just summed up my life though, basically. Having a schedule, I've learned, is pretty important, and I still don't have one. So
I think what I'm just gonna start doing now is just setting reminders on my phone or something that could just ding off and tell me hey, do the thing now or else you're gonna forget later.
Yeah. And then the thing is with me, even if I do that, I say do the thing now, and then I say no, I'll do it in 5 minutes, and then don't do it for 5 hours. It's that's definitely something I feel like if I had to improve something in my life the most, it would be trying to reply to messages on the spot, because it just makes things so much easier. And it's never been a habit of mine, but I know other people are probably like, why wouldn't you reply to shit right off the bat? But I don't know. It's just never been in my nature, I guess. But if I had to change one thing, that's what it would be.
I've always been super good. All right, so here's the thing. There definitely is a culture around that of just there's two sides to this. There's the people who do reply immediately to everything and the people who don't. And with either one, there's different variations. If you don't immediately reply, it's either you can't be bothered, you don't want to be bothered by people, or simply you saw it, you're just I'll answer it in a second, and then you forget.
Yeah,
that's yours.
That one happens to me most of the time. Yeah,
yours. Mine is just I answer immediately, and then there's the side of the camp that's just they're so desperate for attention and validation that they're always paying attention to their messages. For me, it's kind of a thing. I see the notification, and it annoys me to no end that the notification is there, so I have to answer immediately. Mm-hmm. So I could get the notification out of there, so I don't have to see it.
I think that's part of why it's so easy for me to forget, because I always swipe away the notifications. I hate seeing notifications too, so I always swipe them away, and that would help me fix the problem if I didn't, because then it'd be like you said, you have it there, so you want to get rid of it. But in the not natural, but get rid of it by actually acknowledging it instead of just swiping it away.
But for me, it's even if I swipe it away, when I'm scrolling through my home screen on my phone, I see that little red number on either my Messenger app or on Snapchat.
Oh, that's true. Oh man, yeah, I hated that about iPhone, dude. I forgot that's a thing, because Android, I think you can either turn it off or it doesn't have it anymore. So, I hated that, dude. Seeing the little number, the red number, right?
Yeah.
The little bubble.
I hate it too, but it keeps me consistent about answering stuff. And, I feel...
Yeah, it's true.
I feel
it's
good
a helpful
about it
feature.
because, it's kind of obviously people want you to respond. This is how I see it. Everybody has their schedule, right? And if I have the ability to make somebody's day a little bit more easy when it comes to just responding a message they need this piece of information as soon as possible so they could just get on with their day... and if I could take just the second to do it, I'll do it. It's no sweat off my back. And that's kind of the other reason why. One, I hate seeing the notification. And two, I know what it's like when you're waiting for someone to respond, whether it's something dumb that I could ignore, but if it's something important and you're just waiting for someone to respond, that could be legitimately one of the most infuriating things in the world.
Oh, I know, man. In those cases, like, yeah, I feel really bad after. I guess most of the time, like, if I do read it and it's something like that, I will try to respond as quick as it is. But half of the time for me, I feel like it is on the side where it doesn't feel like it's like, you know, important. Like if I don't respond, they're going to die. Like,
yeah.
Jesus.
Like, but I guess that's just like, it just depends on the balance. That's what I always say. Like, hey, if you know you're in a situation where the person is discussing something important, whether that be for like work or just interpersonal, I know it could be tough sometimes, but just get it out of the way. You're going to feel a lot better if you get it out of the way than you will forgetting about it and eventually having to deal with the backlash that's going to come.
I never feel good about it when I later on remember, like, oh, shit, I didn't ever reply to my sister or my mom or something, you know? Like, those are the worst, because even if it's not like they needed me to reply in the moment, it just feels bad later.
It does. But that's how I got past that habit, just being annoyed with notifications and just like trying to be a little bit more, I guess, empathetic, or like putting myself in their shoes and just like, yeah, if I was them, I wouldn't want to be ignoring the shit out of myself. So let me answer.
Do you have any of those friends though that like, you know that as soon as you reply, they're going to try to start like a super deep convo?
Yes.
See, that's what kind of got me in the bad habit to begin with. I feel like I had too many of those friends.
I guess you lucked out with me, man, because I'm completely not about that shit. It's just like, I used to be really bad dealing with that back in the day. I used to just be like, I would just take it. I would just be like, oh, fine, whatever. Nowadays, I'm very more upfront of just like, if I know they're going to come at me with some super deep, like, blah, 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 I'm usually very forward in telling them, like, hey, if you're going through something, like, just dump it here and I'll pay attention to it later. But right now I can't. Mm-hmm. And I'm not afraid of telling them whether it's just I'm too busy or I'm just not in the headspace right now. Because I feel it's worse. It feels worse for the person if you just blatantly ignore them. Because then it really feels like they don't give a shit. I feel like it's a little bit nicer. It's still not the best, but nicer when you're kind of upfront. Like, hey, it's not that I don't care, but I really am either busy right now or I'm not in the headspace to like work this out with you right now. But I'll definitely get to it, just not right now.
No, I like it. It's definitely that. I'm not always in the mood to be able to like handle that much, you know, and saying something is definitely better. Like that actually, I don't know, for some reason it doesn't really occur to me because maybe I'm not that upfront with people to begin with, but it makes a lot of sense. Like if you just, I don't think anyone would get that mad if you just tell them like, not right now, but you know, as long as you're good about replying eventually, then no one should really get mad.
Yeah, because it's just showing that you have at least the minimum like amount of compassion and care for the person where you'll actually, you know, confront, you know, about it instead of, because like it feels like neglect, man. Like you can never go wrong by just communicating what you have to communicate. A lot of people are too afraid of like, oh, what if they respond this way? Or what if they respond this way? What ifs are always going to happen. If you let your life go by like caution by what ifs, you're never going to fucking live in peace. Sometimes you just have to do it. And whatever happens, happens, because it is way worse when you don't handle and approach things appropriately. Obviously, that doesn't mean you have to confront every single thing, every single time at the moment, but that's exactly why there's those periods where you could just be like, hey, not right now, but I will get to you.
Yeah, that's honestly one of my biggest fears, too, because, like, I guess maybe both of us are getting to that age where our grandparents are getting older, you know?
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, man, specifically with them, like my grandparents they know how to use their phones now. You know, they didn't really used to back in the day, but now they've had a couple of years to really learn. And like they text now, maybe not too great, you know. I feel like you could have a whole page just on grandparent
my
text.
My grandparents still can't even text.
But like even that, you know, like I try to call them at least once a month or every 2 weeks or whatever. But when I don't reply to their text, because sometimes it feels like they just, you know, they're like Facebook users. Like they'll post like a random like GIF of like a little dog giving you a heart or something. And it's like, it's so cute, but I don't know, half the time I don't know what to say. And then I feel bad. Like, what if that's the last message, dude? Like, I know that's super like pessimistic or something, but I don't know.
I think
there's
it's
always
just,
that thought in my head. Like,
yeah, where it's just like, do you feel like you're really showing the people you care about enough love? I used to be super self-conscious about that, specifically with my parents, like, because I've always been very to myself. Like, if I'm a person, like, if you as a person interact with me and you get like very direct and forward affection from me, consider that a rarity, because I am very unaffectionate in general. So like, if you're a person in my life and I show you a lot of affection, that means I really, really like you.
I mean, till we get a couple Coronas in you, right?
Well, true. But like, if I'm sober and I show you a lot of affection and attention, that means you're really important to me. Because in general, I'm very just like, don't touch me. Like, I don't like to say these nice things and whatever, because I don't know. I feel like
don't hug me. I'm scared.
Yeah, it puts me in like the state of just like, oh, if I show too much affection, then they think I'm committed to them. I don't want them to think that. I was a lot that way when I was a teenager. So I wouldn't call my mom often, or like if I ever talked with my mom, it was always quote unquote talking business. You know, like just like what I did today for school and like how, you know, what do I need to do for school and all that stuff. And eventually, like, I got to a point where I'm just like, man, I wonder if my mom actually thinks I love her. And one day I sat down with her and like, Mom, sometimes I feel super self-conscious that you think that I either don't show you enough love, or you don't think I love you, or I'm appreciative of those things. And like, she gave me like a real talk, like, listen, out of all the things you could be, the one thing you are not is a spoiled brat. And that is already enough to tell me that you are very appreciative and loving of what I do, even if you don't always express it. But I appreciate that you came to me and talked to it to express it, because that just feels nice and that feels reassurance. So I guess like what I'm trying to say with that is like, every once in a while that you just tell them like, hey, I know I'm busy a lot and I'm not very communicative, but I want you to know that I appreciate you and I love you and I think about you all the time. That usually is completely and entirely enough for our parents and for our grandparents. For them, that's like the world. Like, they could survive another 100 years with just that one statement.
No, for sure, man. It's like you said, the reassurance is nice, but I think they understand as you get older too. Like, you know, obviously they went through it at some point in their life too, where it was different times, but I feel like that's just part of growing up. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, eventually you become a full adult too, and like there's just that mutual understanding. But right now, when we're like kind of in the transition, and it kind of feels like we're closer to our parents now, especially because I think most Puerto Rican parents, like, you know, I don't know about you specifically, but I know a lot of Puerto Rican parents usually have kids early, you know, so. Well,
my parents had me, I think, like at 31, 32. So I'm still not there yet, at least in relation to my parents. But yeah, Puerto Rican parents do, at least back in the day, did tend to have kids very young.
Yeah. No, my mom had me at like 20, I think, or maybe even younger. So.
Yeah. That goes
I don't know. I felt like for a while, even when I was in high school, I felt very close to her, like just, I wouldn't say mental wise, but like just life wise. I don't know. Yeah.
I mean, it's just like, I've always seen that dynamic with some parents who have very young parents, where it feels like they're a lot closer in their like relatability, but also in their conflicts, because they're still so young and they're still learning so much about life. I have one friend in specific who her mom is still young. I think she hasn't even hit her 40s. And
damn.
And I think and my friend is only like in her early 20s, 23, 24. So they're very close.
Bro, wait, that's impossible. Do you realize what you just said?
I think her mom is about to hit 40, or maybe.
Okay, wait, never mind. 40s. My bad. I thought you said 30 for some reason. Okay, no, 40s maybe.
She's maybe about to hit her 30s.
I was like, did she have a kid at 9, bro?
No,
like, what the fuck?
But definitely like somewhere around like 18, 19, like very young.
Yeah.
So
I mean, even if it's 16, like there's a lot of 16-year-old moms. Like, I mean, maybe not. I don't know about anymore, but you know, the reason fucking Teen Mom blew up is because it was happening a lot.
Oh yeah, it was happening a lot. But it's definitely kind of just like that situation, because they're still so young. You feel like everything is a lot more personal between you two as parent and child, because you're both like in a point of struggle together at the same time.
I definitely went through a phase where I don't regret it necessarily, but I feel like weird. where I would just call my mom by her first name because she felt more like a friend than a mom. But it's like, it wasn't disrespect to her, you know? It just, that's how it felt at the time, and I was going through like my teenage phase.
I can't imagine it, man. I can't imagine doing that even now. Like, yo le digo madre.
But I think it was because of the age. Like, I don't know. She was still like 20 years older than me, or like 18 kid. Or something, but.
You were just a little edgy boy, I guess. You were a little ruffian.
No, it was definitely a phase.
No, I
and like, my mom was doing, like, you know, I mean, just to get into a little bit of personal shit, like, obviously, like, my dad passed away, and I feel like that happened when my mom was like 30, maybe? Yeah, I don't know. Well, yeah, they were both like 33. And like, eventually, obviously it took a while for her to like be able to fully get over that, or like not get over it, because I don't think you ever really do, but you know, be back to normal. So like, when she started dating and stuff again, it just felt really weird to see that as a teenager. So I think that's why I kind of went through that phase.
Yeah, it was a little bit of a resentfulness of like, it kind of feels like she moved on too fast. Because I guess it's different.
I guess part of it too is it just felt like she, like, because she was like almost 40 at this point, but she was doing stuff that like a 20-year-old would do, you know? And I was about to be 20, so it just felt kind of weird. And I don't, like, my grandparents were basically the ones taking care of me and my sister, so it wasn't like I didn't like her or hated her, obviously. It was just a phase where I like...
There we go.
We just felt more equal, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, closer to age, and like, you know, now she's single and she's, you know, she was looking to date. It definitely feels kind of just like, why is my mom doing the things I'm doing? Yeah,
exactly.
I personally, well, my parents have always been together, but I just, it like the margin, it was also like the situation where I had like a way older brother and an older sister. So I had like a lot more of just like dynamic where I would deal more with my siblings than I would with my parents. My parents were always my parents. I never had that kind of like relatability until now when I became an adult. Now is when like, it was like maybe when I started turning into my early 20s when me and my mom could have very like just adult conversations and be very just comfortable talking about whatever. Now we literally talk about whatever, dude. Everything, like the sex life, our past education, how religion affected our life, and we fucking joke about it like it's nothing.
You and your mom or your sister?
No, me and my mom.
Oh yeah, no, because your sister, I would guess it was like from way earlier. But like, no, that's what I was saying. Like, eventually as we grow up, I feel that you get to that point where it's like, you know, they're still going to see you as their little angel or whatever, but they understand that you're an adult with your own life and stuff. And it's like, I would hope, to get to that point eventually too. Like, I'm slowly working to it with my own mom. So yeah, no, that's definitely, I feel like, the natural progression.
It definitely is. But at the same time, we also have to count our lucky stars, because there are some parents who are just not that way. There's either the
and that's what I'm trying to say, dude. I feel like that should be the natural way, but there's definitely a lot of parents that they would either they always want to feel like they're above you, which not in a negative way, you know, just like they always want to have that authority. And I get that maybe to an extent, but it can go too much, you know. It can go too much towards that.
Well, it could get to
I feel like you should have a bit of relatability.
Yeah. And just it could get to that point where they never trust you to like just take care of yourself, and they're like way too, how do you say, overbearing. I've definitely seen those parents who are just like, your son is like in his 30s and you still give him shit for going out alone and with his friends.
Yeah, I'm not saying that's how all simps are born, but like, I think that's a huge factor in a lot of simps' life, bro. Yeah, like, dude. I don't know. When you can't talk to anyone, like, I mean, some people, they have siblings or they have friends, but like, maybe your parents aren't always the best people to go to talk about like sex life and all that, or like dating. But it can be nice if you don't have other people, and it's like, if they always just see you as like their baby, you're never really gonna grow out of that, I feel.
Yeah, it's definitely. I have some friends like that. I've had both sides. Some friends who are just like completely acceptant of the fact that their parents are overbearing and nurturing, even though they're grown-ass men and women. But I also have my friends who are struggling to get their parents to stop doing that. Which that seems even more frustrating, man. When like you're trying to get your parents to accept the fact that you are grown up and they need to get over the constant fear of what's going to happen to you and whether you can take care of yourself, because that own mentality sometimes stops your parents from preparing you for the dangers in the world.
I want to say from personal experience, I think the only way to really get over that, get your parents to realize it, it's kind of sad, but it happened to me with my grandparents mainly, because like I said, my mom and I, we like naturally built up that relatability.
Yeah.
But with my grandparents, they were more like the ones that were super overprotective, and like they still would see me and my sister as like the little baby, you know, even my sister's now over 22, you know, like they still see us as like little baby. But what helped me the most is actually just showing them that you can live on your own. Like, obviously I moved out on my own. I was doing YouTube and making my own money and living on my own.
Yep.
And like, eventually they just realize like, yeah, he's an adult now. He has his own life. And it's not that you're going to lose that side of like, I don't know. I think there is still something like nice and kind of like wholesome. Like, it feels good to have that embrace of like, you know, your grandparents at least still see you that way. But
you know,
it becomes just a balance, you know. You're never going to lose that. They're never going to not see you as their little baby, but they could start respecting you more as an adult if you just prove it to them.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, that's how it happened with my mom. The breaking point for my mom, because my mom was the overprotective mom. Not overbearing, but overprotective, was, just me moving out on my own. That was eventually when my mom, and she didn't want me to, and it was a big fight. But I told her, I'm going to do it, and I did it. And then eventually she just had to deal with it. She was just like, there was no choice, because I was telling her, you either start embracing the fact or I'm like out and I'm just going to do it. And that's eventually what got him there. But, you know, it's different for all like children and parents. It's there's no way to say parenting is not easy. Obviously, we're not parents. We don't know what it's like yet. We like to think we got it all figured out, but I feel like,
and we're giving it from our perspective as the kind of like kid growing up. And honestly, I think that fits perfect for the podcast, because I would guess that most of our viewers or listeners are like around that age where you're finishing high school or like finishing college and going into like real adulthood, you know?
Yeah.
So I feel like that's a lot of people might be going through the same thing, or like might find it relatable or something.
Currently, because it's definitely a thing of just like, listen, it's not to say that there can't be parents out there who are straight up bad, because yes, there can be, you know, but that stems from them just generally being bad people rather than bad parents. But there's also you know, kids also have to understand, and this is a thing that took me work to understand, is just like no one gets a manual on how to be a parent. There's no one structure on how to be a parent, because how you parent your child completely depends on your child. Because just like no two parents are the same, no two children are the same. So it's a different experience for every parent. Obviously, there's like the general fundamental thing of just like, you know, understanding, compassion, caring, blah, blah, blah. But I feel like sometimes kids have a hard time understanding how much of a pain in the ass we can be too.
Well, I think you hit it on the head though when you said if you're a shitty person, I feel like you're naturally going to be a shitty parent. And that type of thing as a kid, like, what are you supposed to do? Like, as a kid, obviously, you're going to kind of learn from example. So if you just have bad parents, like, it might turn you... I don't know. You don't have to be a bad kid, because eventually, like, you learn on your own when you get to school and all that. But at least those first few years, like, I think you're kind of screwed. It's like...
Yeah, it's a tough situation, because sometimes kids are really just stuck in an environment, in a parental environment that's just bad. And that's a whole different case altogether. But when it really just comes to, like, if you're a kid and you feel like you're struggling getting your parents' understanding or your communication and all that stuff, the best thing you could do as a kid is just like leave your hang-ups at the door and open up entirely to your parents, because the only way they're going to understand is if you real talk them. Because even me, I would always just be like, my parents don't understand me, they don't get it. But at the same time, I wouldn't say shit to my parents. So obviously they don't understand and get me. Obviously, part of it was just like I was too scared to tell them, because I was afraid of how they would react. But there was also a side of me that just had an assumption that they wouldn't get it, even if I told them. So I was just making the thing more difficult for myself, too. And it's a balancing act, man. But at the end of the day, what you got to realize is that your parents are learning through this process just like you are, man. Like, this is entirely a new experience for them, just like it is for you. And it's a lot easier if you help each other with that than just constantly being in conflict about it.
Yeah.
And that's something...
And I think that's something that's getting... It might be getting better through the generations. I'm not really sure. But it feels like kids are smarter nowadays. Like, I think they've always been getting smarter. Like, we say... Yep. I think when we were growing up, we thought we were smarter than our parents. And, like, now kids are smarter than us. So it's like... I think through the generations, we're getting smarter slowly. I
think it's just...
And more than smarter, we're also, like, maybe just emotional-wise or more understanding. So communication is key, but obviously to like communicate, especially with your parents, you have to like know, like you have to know yourself, I guess, to an extent. And obviously not all kids are like that. Like not every kid is going to be woke, quote unquote, you know, to like come to their parents like, hey, I'm having these issues or this is why I'm having trouble. Like that's the whole thing with teenagers. Like they don't want to talk about what they're going through. So.
But I think it's definitely that idea of just like assuming that people won't understand them, and that sometimes just digs them in a deeper hole.
Yeah.
But I think it's
like obviously it depends on your parents, but if your parents are at least a little bit understanding, they're reasonable people. I think they do want to hear what you're really thinking, even if it sounds like in your head you're thinking it might be too much or it's going to be a bother to them. Like I think that's what they really want to hear.
That goes for everything, man. For parents, for friends, just like people.
That's just relationships in general.
Yeah, people who care about you, guys, open up. I know it's not that simple because, you know, there's also different kinds of mental issues that either make that a lot more difficult or even inhibit it at some times. But the hardest hurdle to jump over, I always see them as two. And they all stem from your ego. Because I feel like people think that the ego is only relates to confidence, right? When you hear ego, when you hear that someone has a big ego, your automatic response is just like, oh, then they're probably full of themselves. But that's not all of what ego is. The ego is just the perception of the self in general. And that could go just as much positively as it could go negatively. Sometimes we're so negatively wrapped up in our ego where we don't think anyone can help us. That's another side of self-obsession or self-absorption where we just think we're so stuck in our turmoil that nobody could possibly understand and nobody can possibly, you know, and that's something that not a lot of people hear. Sometimes people have to realize maybe I am, in a sense, not trying to like guilt anyone or say that they're wrong or bad, but in a sense, maybe I am being a little bit too self-centered / absorbed in not wanting to open up to people who clearly care about me and want what's best for me.
Yeah. I think something I've experienced with people like that too is the worst part of it is when they do want to open up, it's like they do it in a way usually where it's trying to kind of project it on you. So it's like, I have this problem, but I'm going to try to make it as if you have this problem so that we can talk about it.
Yeah, so I could feel less accountable.
Like deep down, you know, they just want to open up about their problem, but they're going to pin it on you to like kind of twist it in their head as if like they're not wrong. But exactly. I mean, at the end, they're still trying to communicate. It's just definitely going about it the wrong way.
It's just, I think, and this goes back to like parenting, and this goes back to, I think I was going to say on like, you know how you were expressing that it's getting a little easier to communicate and like quote unquote be a good kid parent. I think it's more of just like a sign of the times that nowadays people are more embracing of the fact of like rights. Because back in the day, if you were a kid, you were completely submissive to your parents and what they said went, and that was it, no matter they were right or wrong. And that did not create a good environment for nurturing and for people opening up and expressing themselves. And in turn, our parents adopt those traits. But the good thing about time is little by little, when people speak out about those things, those traits start to disappear. And I feel like that's why things slowly get better, because people little by little have naturally been progressing to a thing where it's just like, that's not how shit works. Just because you're in a position of authority doesn't mean you're always right. And it doesn't mean, you know, this is some kind of totalitarian dictatorship where what you say goes because you're the parent. No, you know, you can be wrong just like your kid can be wrong. And the best way you could go about that in a productive way is to talk about it and come out.
Yeah, have an actual conversation. Like, it doesn't even have to be as black and white, like you're wrong, I'm right. It's just like you come to an understanding with each other.
Yeah, compromise. And that's what I was
and that like that's something that I think just with our generation and onward, I guess my mom at least, like I know she's of the same thinking, like where even if they're your kids, even if you are like above them in the sense that you literally gave birth to them, you can still have real conversations and like understand that you could be wrong too, or like just not even wrong, it's just a different way of thinking.
100%.
But just be open-minded, basically.
And that goes with every kind of relationship. People, I think it's getting a little easier and it's getting a little bit better because we're getting to a point where people are starting to realize, like just like you said, it doesn't have to be black and white, right or wrong. And I feel like still in our generation, at least that we grew up in, there's still that notion of, we have that natural progression, at least I did for a while too, where like if we did anything that we perceived to be like wrong, like our immediate response is, I'm gonna get punished for this.
Oh yeah, you're getting the chancla, bro.
You're getting the chancla, la correa, y todo eso. And that ingrains
That's growing
itself.
up in Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
I was actually gonna bring that up because it's like, I don't know if this happened in the U.S. as much, but like growing up in Puerto Rico, for us at least, I don't even know if it happens that much anymore with the current generation, because it feels like you even lay a finger on your kid and it's completely wrong nowadays. And yeah, first of all, there are some things that clearly it's wrong or right. Like that, it doesn't apply to everything, obviously.
Essentially.
But I feel like with this, it's like, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it. If you're not torturing your kid, because obviously that can be a thing too. There's parents that like that just the power gets to their head, or I don't know what it is, bro. But it's obviously they're doing some messed up things.
But
I don't regret or I don't feel resent or anything for like my dad or like whoever back in the day bringing the belt, you know. I don't know. I feel like it wasn't like scarring or like that terrible. Like I felt like sometimes I deserved it, probably, you know. I wouldn't have learned otherwise.
But that's a very
it's a hard
line
topic
to walk,
but like
because that also, again, that completely depends on your mentality, because like that could affect different people in different ways, man. Like me as a kid, yeah, I got pretty used to like when I would act up, me daban un chancletazo or with the belt, you know. But I never felt like they did it resentfully. But I know that there's some kids where it's just like that could be traumatizing, man.
It's abuse.
Here's your
and that's what I mean. There's a fine line
Yeah.
between like punishing to teach, like when you know you really messed up, and it's like, I don't know, timeout only works for so many times, you know?
And there are some parents who, for the smallest shit, would like whack their kids, and I would see that thing, even for the most minimal thing. And
that's why I say it feels like a power trip, but it's like, how could you do that when it's a child, dude?
Yeah.
Like,
but it's like, and for some kids, it's just like, regardless, that's not the way it works for them, because you got to see that some kids have this mentality of just, here's my one beacon of hope, my parent, this is my guardian that will never do me wrong no matter what, and he just beat the shit out of me. That's a pretty scarring thing, because it kind of like shaves off a little bit of that trust of like, you're never going to do me harm, you know, where I feel that's where the line is drawn, because like, yeah, sometimes kid can just like make you lose it, man. Even me, as like not a parent, I've had like to take care and babysit kid cousins, and sometimes they drive me insane, where my first thought is just like throw them off the roof of the house, but obviously I'm not going to do that. But you do have to realize that you are the bigger person, and you got to find ways to make this work that isn't like just completely this kid, you know. But and that in turn, it's just like sometimes people don't think about how that carries over to when you're adult, which is what I was getting to, where I've had a lot of friends where if they feel like they did something wrong to me, right, or did something wrong in general, they will get so either defensive about it or never confront it, because they equate being wrong with being punished. It's not about getting hit anymore. It's just like, you're going to suffer consequences because of this bad thing you did. And that in turn makes them become defensive because they don't want to suffer consequence. Nobody does. Yeah. So like their immediate response is to either get defensive or aggressive or loud or whatever, or to just completely ignore the problem like it didn't happen. But I feel like, yes, those people still exist who will take advantage of those responses. Abusers still exist. But you do have to kind of recognize where that in itself can also be a toxic behavior when the person you are having this interaction with isn't an abuser and isn't trying to take advantage of that response and reaction. On the contrary, this is a person that understands that people make mistakes, and the best way to avoid making mistakes again is not with punishment or abuse. It's with sitting down, talking about it, talk about why it happened, and seeing how we could avoid it happening again. Easy peasy. Coming to a compromise. It's not about pointing fingers and going like, you did wrong, you have to make up for it. It's more of just like, hey, it's okay, you made a mistake, let's talk about it, let's come to a compromise, and let's move past it in a productive way. But I've definitely had a lot of interactions with friends, close friends of mine, who their response are just like, "What? I didn't do anything wrong, no," you know, like, and because like they don't want to be reprimanded for it, even if I'm not gonna do that, even if I'm just like, "Yo, dude, I'm not trying to make you look like the bad guy. I'm just saying, let's talk about it."
Oh man!
But and that is a complete, response and consequence of growing up in an environment where you did the slightest thing wrong and you were punished for it.
Yeah, I think I might have got lost a little bit along the way, but at the end, that is the message came through. Like, we don't. It's should you beat your kids? No,
no.
But it's like, is a spanking like, when they're really messed up? Like, are you really gonna condemn people for that? I feel like we shouldn't, but
I feel like
there really isn't a clear definition of how far we should go. Like, we don't want people to end up being complete snowflakes, but you also don't want them to be like on the other end, Yeah.
I think it's just kind of like a thing of just like personally, I'm not about physical punishment like that. At least, when I have my kids, if they do something, obviously I'm going to punish them in the way where they feel it, whether it's like taking away a privilege that they really hold close to themselves, but they're gonna know. I feel there's ways of doing it, and I'm pretty good at raising my voice too. I'm pretty scary, but
yeah, that too actually.
But there are definitely ways to show them that, hey, your actions have fucking consequences, and you're not gonna get away with this shit. Rather than just like,
I just felt like personally, I don't know. At least the American thing I always hear is like, go to your room. And it's like, what does that do? Like, in my room, I have, that's my safe space. Like, I got everything there.
For me, it would probably just be like, all right, I'm going to take this shit away. And now you're stuck in your room and all you can look at is look at the fucking ceiling, you little brat.
That type of timeout to me makes sense. But it's like when you just get sent to your room and that just feels like you're not trying to have a conversation at all. You're just not trying to deal with it.
Yeah.
It's the same thing as like parents that just, as soon as the kid starts crying, they just give him the iPad. It's like, shut up. Here's your little chew toy. Like, it's the laziest parenting I've probably ever seen. And if anything, it's like it's creating such a dependency on these like
stimulus
technology and devices these days, dude. It's like, I don't know, man. I see kids now that they can't live without a phone. Like, my little cousins are like, well, I guess specifically the boy one. It's a boy and a girl, just like me and my sister. But they can't, bro. At least he can't. He can't live without his phone. He's just throwing a tantrum.
All right, hold on a second. Don't lose. I got to go tell these people to lower the volume on this TV. Hold on.
Oh.
I'll be right back.
You gotta go talk to your kids.
At least a little.
You had to go talk to your children?
Yeah, I had to go. I had to take away their privileges, and now they know. See, now they know.
Oh, no.
But,
I totally agree with what you're saying, though. And even, like, with the whole iPad situation that's going on nowadays, or the phone or whatever, like, when you take away the phone from the kid nowadays, I've seen this happen so many times with people I know and people I don't know, and the kids throw a tantrum, dude, and the parent is just like, they can't handle it, and so they give it back. But I feel like that's the mistake right there. Like, you have to let them go through it, dude. You can't let them just have that dependency on, like, every time that I mess up, I can just cry and I'll get my way. It's like, I feel that makes, that just creates such a worse, like, mentality in the kids.
It gives that mentality, that entitled mentality of just like, if I make enough noise and make it as much of a pain in the ass for the person as possible, I'll get what I want.
Yeah, and this is what I mean by kids are smart nowadays. Like, I feel a lot of parents might overlook it, like their kid is crying, so obviously they're in pain, or so I did something bad.
Manipulative,
but like, kids sometimes they know, dude. They learn from like repetition. Like, a lot of kids, I feel like, are aware that if they cry, they're gonna get their way.
Not for me.
And I don't think they're gonna learn otherwise. Like, if you keep giving them what they want.
That's completely reflective to an experience I had where I was taking care of like some little cousins, and we were going into a Walmart, and one of them started throwing a tantrum into Walmart. All I did, I grabbed him, I carried him out of the Walmart, and I sat him. We stood next to the car outside, and I told him, like, we're not gonna go back inside until you stop. And he cried and he cried and he cried until he realized he wasn't going to get what he wanted until he stopped throwing a tantrum. I didn't hit him. I didn't yell at him. Nothing. I just told him, you're not going to get what you want until you stop.
Yep.
And he stopped and we went back in. The rest of the day was perfectly fine.
Damn, Papa Gabe, dude. He got the strats.
It's just like, listen, man, I've had to deal, like, my family is huge. And I've had to deal with little cousins for a very long time. And I was also the youngest. So I would observe how my parents would behave with the younger cousins and my siblings, and eventually that just ingrained on me of just like, okay, there's a way to handle these things. So I'm generally good with kids. Do I want to be a parent yet? No, but I'm good with kids.
Agree with you there, man. I feel like we've been talking this whole video. We started talking about our parents, then like how when we... like how we would parent, I guess, to an extent, but it's like we can't even, or how other people parent when we're not parents ourselves. So it's definitely like, this would have been an episode, or it'd be interesting if we had like an actual dad or mom. An actual parent.
Oh, maybe we should
like
do that
as a guest.
Just have our parents on the podcast. That'd be crazy.
Oh man, I'd be down someday. I mean, my mom probably like I don't know how it is for yours, but my mom, like, she works all in English now, so I feel like she can easily keep up a conversation, but like she probably speak Spanglish, just like she could understand everything.
Every once in a while my mom will drop the Spanish too, like, but she's perfectly fluent in both of them, so it'd be fine. But this definitely has been the therapy podcast. It's exactly what we're gonna call it too. We give you therapy.
The therapy cast.
Yeah. I mean, because dude, it's just like, that really is just how therapy is. Like, it's like from when we're born. So
parenting is just therapy.
Parenting is therapy. That's exactly. Hey, if you want your life to get better, become a parent.
Oh God. Dude.
It's so fascinating how you can see the way you were raised and brought up as a kid, how directly that correlates to your behaviors as an adult. It's like exactly what I was saying. Like, if you would do something wrong, you would either get whacked or smacked. And now when you're an adult, when you do something wrong, you don't want to confront it because you want to avoid the how do you say, the figurative whacking and slapping, which now would just be either being told off or being blamed, being in the wrong, where now people either rather just not confront it at all, or they get super defensive, and they don't realize that's kind of a toxic trait, because then people are just like, I don't know why my relationships aren't working, and I don't know why no one wants to be around me. Maybe it's because you don't make it fucking easy, because you're so afraid of being wrong. Because to be fair, that's one, either how you were raised or society taught you that when you're wrong, you're wrong. It goes back to the cancel culture, where now people make one mistake and their lives are done, where people don't give anyone the opportunity to grow or advance as a human being, to where now there's just cultural fear of like, you cannot be wrong, and you will fight to the death before you admit that you're wrong. And that's not a good thing to do. That's not how you show support. That's not how you show care. Me with my friends, that's the most important thing that I try to tell them. Like, hey, I care about you guys a lot. We've been together for so many years, but I need you guys to understand that you need to trust me, and you need to trust that I'm gonna like stick by you, and even if we fuck up, we trust enough each other to sit down and talk about it, and not just go like, well, friendship over, you know. And it's a fickle thing. It's a fickle thing.
Oh man, that shit, like it definitely hits like different with everything that's been going on this week. Like, I feel we're at the peak. I've been saying this probably since podcast 1, dude. We've hit the peak of like outrage and cancel culture, and like, I don't know. I get what people are trying to do. It's like, if you've made big mistakes in your past, if you've done fucked up things, like, you should be given a chance to redeem. I feel like people should be given a chance to like repent, I guess, and redeem themselves. If you show
genuine desire to want to put that side of your life behind you, and you genuinely recognize that it was wrong, and you're showing genuine desire to make good on those mistakes, you should be given that opportunity. That's how it is.
Yeah. And like, the thing is, I feel that because of the way it is and how like aggressive the cancelers can be, I don't think they really give the person any room for like any type of comeback. And obviously it depends each case, but like, I guess the most recent one to talk about is Jenna Marbles, which I don't think you really were up to date with it, right?
I wasn't. I literally only saw that she was like taking a break off YouTube.
Yeah, she said she had to quit YouTube because of like things that she did years ago that I like. Again, I understand those things she did years ago are horrible, but is she ever going to be given a chance now to come back, or is she just dead on the internet because of that mistake, you know? I don't think that she's that person anymore already. Like, you can tell from her videos and the way she portrays herself. She even talks about it in the video, how the reason she had to come out and expose herself essentially is because people see her as like a beacon of like hope, I forgot the word, damn it. Wholesomeness. Yeah. People just see her as like a good, nice, like role model. But because wasn't always like that, she's scared that all these things will come out of the closet, or like,
but that's exactly
people were already
how it
like,
is.
A minority was already expressing it.
Yeah, that's exactly how it is. Like, sometimes, especially when you're in the limelight like that, people put you on a fucking pedestal to a point like where you can't even control. So then when you make one mistake or something comes up in your past where you were probably a completely different person and no longer think that way or have those same opinions, that pedestal just comes crashing down. And the higher up you are on it, the worse it's going to come crashing down. And that's why people are afraid of. They're not allowed to change or have been wrong and repentant for it. And it's crazy, dude. I haven't been perfect. I probably said some dumb shit when I was a kid and a teenager too. That's
what I mean. I feel like almost everyone has some skeletons in their closet.
Everyone does.
Yeah, and especially from like when you were growing up, like your teenage phase, dude. Everybody makes mistakes. Everybody has said some stupid shit. It's like, if we don't allow people to prove that they can change, and yeah, you can't just immediately be like, okay, we forgive you, you're good now. Like, actually allow people to change. I don't know. It's hard to say, because with someone like Jenna, at least, you know that it's been years and years since that happened, and you can see an actual change in her way of being, her content and everything. So I think it's still the right thing for her to take a break, like, just because the internet, like, because of the way that it is, at least for the next month or couple of weeks or however long, they're not going to see the good side of it. Like, yes, she's already changed. She's a better person, whatever. Like, when it happens, when you get the canceling, there's no seeing the good side, or like the person could change side, I guess.
Yeah. It's just, or even acknowledging the fact that the person already has changed. You know, that's definitely another thing about it.
That's what I mean. Like, even if someone has proven it, I don't know. It's similar to what happened with Joji a while ago, even though that was kind of more of a meme.
Yeah, that was just.
But like, Filthy Frank was always a parody character. Yeah. But you know, people will only see sarcasm on the internet if they find it funny. If they don't, then they just see you as you're an asshole.
There are some people who are definitely out there and just get off to like bringing people down. Of just like ending people's careers and doing shit like that. Those definitely exist.
Oh, dude, I've seen so much of that recently on Twitter. It honestly kind of makes me feel like obviously these people aren't just as bad because they're trying to expose the people that are
but
actually
for the
doing
reasons
disgusting
that they're
things.
doing it makes them pretty much just as bad. Because they're not doing it
Yeah,
to
I just
do
feel like
justice.
you shouldn't be getting hyped.
Yeah.
Like, yes, you can help to bring into light, share your story, that type of thing. I would never be against people sharing their stories if they've had someone do something disgusting to them in the past. I just feel like the people that hop on the bandwagon that weren't personally affected, or like maybe they had their own situation, sure,
and they can relate to,
but
yeah,
they can come off as like just as nasty sometimes with like the comments they make about people, like, and the aggressiveness, I guess, the anger that you can feel. I don't know, man. I'm not trying to defend the people that did the bad things. I feel like that's how I'm coming off.
But it's definitely, people got to realize that two people could be wrong, even if one person was wrong first, quote unquote. Like, people think that you have to focus on one thing. We could definitely focus on two things at a time. And just like the person who did the fucked up thing is in the wrong, the people who are just going after that person because they want to watch someone burn and that's their intention are wrong too.
It's a bandwagon mentality, and I feel like it's just too much sometimes.
Yeah.
Like
you have to remember that the original reason you're doing this and bringing this to light is to bring justice to the person affected and bring awareness to the fact, not just to watch someone crumble and burn.
Yeah, and it feels like every time the message or like just in general, the attack ends up coming off like the main character is the violator or the whatever, the person getting canceled,
rather than the victim who's affected by it. Exactly. And I think a lot of times, especially with like sexual assault or predator cases, like the victims should, if anything, be the ones more highlighted. I don't know. You don't want to like put him on the spotlight, but it feels like the original reason that people get canceled is because the victims are coming out with their story. It's like we should be talking about their story, not necessarily. Yeah.
I mean, no, I don't know. I don't get it, man.
I mean, obviously,
there's no real like way to go about it.
Yeah, you gotta reprimand, and you gotta, the person who did the deed has to come to justice. But I feel equal precedence must be taken to comfort and assist the person who was affected by it. It has to give equal precedence. It can't just be all about attack, and no defend the person who's, who was initially attacked. I feel like Twitter definitely has this things, and just like outrage culture in general is just like where the outrage takes precedence over actually helping the person who...
If Twitter was a Yu-Gi-Oh card, it'd be all attack, zero defense.
Yeah, essentially. It would just... God, I don't know. It would probably be like a counter-trap card or something. But I
like how this has slowly been developing. Like, I think a couple weeks ago or whatever, I was talking about how I love Twitter. It's my favorite platform. Now it's finally getting to me. Like,
I always told you. I'm waking you up to the fact that Twitter sucks, dude.
It's still my favorite, though, because I feel that it is the place where people have the most, like, not just controversial, just opinions in general. It's definitely the place where you can get the most just off the dome, like, expression. People just putting out whatever's on their head. And it can be good. It can be definitely very, very bad sometimes. But that's why I always liked and defended Twitter, because it felt to me like the most real social media.
You just thrive on the wild, wild west. That's your thing.
Bro, I like people being real, man. I like people being straight up. That's the main reason I don't fuck with Instagram, is because I feel like it's just, you go to a profile and you see it's usually a very like catered, like curated. I mean, it's a very curated like form of your life. I don't know. It depends on the page, obviously. Like, you can find memes on there too, but like I said, I mainly go for the memes. So I guess if I just followed more meme pages, I'd be okay with Instagram.
Pretty much. That's pretty much how it is. That's exactly how it is. Like, follow the kind of shit you want to see, and that's all you'll see. It's like a better Tumblr without all the fucking angst. But listen, man, I like it when people are straight up too, but I don't like it when people are straight up racist.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Then that's kind of like the other side of the coin with Twitter. Just like straight up funny or straight up fucking horrible.
Yeah. I think at the end of it all, like, I want there to be a happy medium, but it's the internet, bro. Like, it's hard to fucking achieve that with so many different.
It's the nature, and not even humanity. It's just the nature of nature that conflict.
Yeah, it's not just the internet, because the internet is, to an extent, I think it's like the collective ideas of humanity. Yeah. Like,
oh, it definitely is.
I don't know,
and that's just how nature is, man. Humanity likes to think that we've already evolved past nature all the time, but that's not how it fucking is, man. We're
like, I don't want there to be a hive mind, but that is just how humanity works naturally. Sometimes. Like, if people have similar opinions, they'll group together, you know, they'll find each other and they'll back each other up. And
whether they're right or wrong.
There can be some, like, bad bandwagoning, like, sometimes people I don't think fully agree with, but they'll still jump on it, you know? They'll still want to just jump on it because it's like, gives them that adrenaline, like, yes, let's bash this person right now. Like,
just bash his fucking face and bash his head in. That's exactly how it is. That's what I hear every time I hear.
Beat him till they're fucking dead.
Get him! Get him! He said the N-word.
I wish we could hear Twitter. Like,
that would be great, dude. If you could just hear the exact
what would Twitter
person
sound
on the other
like?
side. Oh my
Danny
God.
DeVito, but angry.
Yeah, all the fucking time. Every time you're scrolling through, it's just a collective of voices, just like over and over. God, that would be horrible. It would be horrible. It would be like an Xbox Live, like back in the day, Modern Warfare 2 voice chat of just like a bunch of racial slurs and talking about fucking your mom, just all overlapping each other. That's what Twitter would. Oh my God, I literally just told them to lower the volume and they fucking bumped up the volume again.
Well, all I'm going to say to wrap up that whole topic and maybe the podcast is, since I brought up Jenna, I hope she can make a comeback, because even though I don't agree with the shit she did back in the day, I don't think she should be canceled forever, and I don't think she will. Like, obviously her fans, I think a lot of fans are probably conflicted because they don't want to be seen as racist either, and it feels like if they back her up right now, then that's what it would be. But they might also see the side where, yeah, she's changed. She's already not that person. She straight up
came out and said, hey, this thing I did was dumb and racist. Like, she's straight up telling her, like, she's not even trying to defend the act. She's literally saying, no, back then I was ignorant and stupid and I did a racist thing. And this is not something I think she did the right thing.
Like, definitely take a break, just because right now the masses are going to be full heat at you. And, like, maybe it's best to just, you know, stay off the spotlight for a while.
For a bit.
But I just hope that eventually, like, when she comes back, or if she chooses to, that people don't still think about that or still want to, like, eat her alive for it.
Yeah.
That's it, you know?
I mean, that's all it needs to be. And just to wrap this therapy session right up, everybody, I know we're pretty good therapists, especially for a podcast, but if you are struggling in any kind of way, emotionally and mentally, do seek therapy, especially in these times with all this COVID stuff.
Hit up your boy Gabe, 787-311.
I will murder you and your family, but do get therapy. Realize that there are people in your life who love you, and recognize the people who are going to stick with you at the end of the day, and recognize that they're trying to help you, not hurt you, at least for the most part. And, wait, I lost my train of thought. Oh, yeah. No,
that's perfect to end.
It's like, always know, make sure to know what you got before it's gone. That's all I'm gonna end it with, man. Like, just make sure to recognize the things. Yeah, life can suck sometimes, but do recognize when you got some good shit sprinkled in there, and hold on to it tight, especially in times like these, man.
Glass half full type of guy, aren't you, Gabe?
No, my life is pretty great, so.
Okay, so your glass is always full.
It's always full. Bye.